how many of you guys would like kind of like a roadmap, like would like to know on a daily basis, like what do I need to be doing every single hour of the day? Have you guys ever wondered, where you're like, you go into the office, you're like, well, I mean, I could play around in my CRM, or I could talk to my coworker down the hall, or I could like watch a YouTube video and maybe learn something. But how many of you guys would like to know an exact structure? In fact, I'll take it as far as saying know exactly what to do every hour of every single day. Would that be helpful for you guys? Okay. All right. I got news for you folks. You are not alone. Most people struggle with the structure because frankly, when you have a boss sitting over your shoulder, you know what you're supposed to be doing every hour of the day, whatever the boss says, right? And when you're in a 9 to 5, your butt's in that seat at 9 o'clock and it doesn't leave until 5 o'clock. But what happens over and over and over again, a lot of people without structure, they're not really sure what they should be doing next. They're not sure what the hierarchy of activities is. We're going to show you exactly what you need to be doing today so you no longer wonder what you should be doing. Now it's just a question of, now you'll know, okay? Here's the good thing and the bad thing, right? By the end of tonight, you're going to know exactly what you should be doing. And if you're not doing that, guys, that's on you, okay? But at least you'll know what you need to be doing. Does that make sense, folks? Okay, cool. So everybody, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to type in the chat, and I've spoken about this in weeks past, but for those of you that are a little bit newer, if you can go ahead and type in the chat, what are the 3 most important brokerage activities that most directly relate to income? Okay, I'll give you a little hint. PPF. Okay, so type it in the chat. What do you think those activities are? They directly relate to income producing activities. What do you think that looks like? Okay, yep. Mike says lead gen. Good, love it. Okay. What's next? Okay, prospecting, lead gen. I like it. Okay, kind of one and the same, love it. Good, 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 good. All right, what else? PPF. So I'll give you one hint, guys. One of the P's is prospecting. Okay. What happens after you prospect and someone agrees to meet you at a meeting? What are you then doing? Okay. Once you get done prospecting, then you are presenting. Okay. All right. And then what happens? Let's say for some weird reason, they don't give you a listing the very first time they see your face. What do you then do afterwards, guys? Begins with an F. Type it in the chat. What do you do? Okay. This is the absolute holy trinity of making money in this business: prospecting, presenting, and following up. Now, here's the interesting thing, guys. You won't always be able to do all of these things. Okay. But I will let you in on a secret. The people that do this the most, they make the most money. Okay. Does that make sense, guys? If you're doing the thing that's the highest, best use of your time, doesn't it make sense that you're going to make more money? Okay. All things being equal than the next person doing that only half the time. Okay. So what I want you guys to understand, number one, prospecting, presenting, and following up is the Holy Trinity. And the next thing is, I want you guys to understand what your time is worth. Okay. How many of you know what your time is worth? If you know what it's worth per hour, type it in the chat. What is your time worth? Okay. And we have a very specific formula for those of you that don't know, and that's totally okay. You're not born knowing how to know this stuff. Okay. Michael says, plead. prospecting, pleading, and following up. That's funny. All right. So here's how we figure out our hourly rate, guys. Okay. And everybody here has an hourly rate. Okay. Very, very simple. I want you to take your goal over the next 12 months, because 2024 is already like half over. Okay. So I want you to write down what your goal is over the next 12 months. Type that in the chat. Okay. And then I want you to divide that number by 2,000. Well, people say, well, why 2,000? Well, it's very easy. Okay. There's 50 weeks in a year, assuming you take 2 weeks vacation. Okay. If you're working 40 hours per week, I know a lot of you laugh at that. Like, yeah, right. I work at least. I do that in my sleep. Okay. But humor me. Okay. Just to give you a ballpark number, what your time is worth, 50 hours a week. I'm sorry, 50 weeks of the year, 40 hours a week. That's 2,000 work hours. And then you take whatever your goal is and you divide by 2,000 work hours. So as an example, okay, if you got 200,000 you want to earn in the next year, you divide that by 2,000, guess what? Your time is worth $100 per hour, okay? So do that math real quickly, guys, because what we're going to be doing is the next step we're going to be doing is we're going to show you the resource so you can figure out how to maximize your time and what getting better at this little game called real estate, okay, the prospecting, presenting, and following up, the better you get at that, how much more you're going to earn, okay? So Michael says $800 an hour. Love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. How about you, Horita, Rocco, Victor, Julia? What do you guys got there? What are your hourly rates? Okay, so $800 an hour, guess what? Somebody's trying to earn $1.6 million next year. Let's go. I love it. Okay, that's a lot of prospecting, a lot of presenting, and a lot of following up. Okay, so the thing I want you guys to understand is if your hourly rate is $100 an hour, $200 an hour, $500 an hour, guess what? You cannot afford to do the things that you could pay somebody else $10 an hour, $20 an hour to do, $30 an hour, right? You with me, guys? You cannot afford, because what happens if you do $800 activity, $800 activity, $800 activity, $10 activity, $500 activity, $400 activity, $20 activity? Guess what it does? It drags your average down pretty, by a large margin. You with me, guys? All right. So the thing that's most important to understand is, number one, what you need to be doing, okay? Number two, what your hourly rate is while doing it. And number three, how much you need to do it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pull up on my screen the next piece of the puzzle, which is how do we get you guys to know what the average what you need to be doing. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull open. There's a couple things I want to pull open. So give me just 1 second, folks. In fact, let me stop the share on my screen. We're gonna enlighten you with some cool stuff today. Oh man, this is gonna be a fun one. All right, hang on 1 sec. Does everybody know who CoStar is? Type a C in the chat if you know who CoStar is. Okay, CoStar is the largest aggregator of commercial real estate data in the country. They've been around since 1987. Basically, they're the holy grail of commercial real estate, right? In terms of like where we get our data from, where we get our information from. Why? They're very, very on top of things when it comes to transactions. When you lease a space, they want to know, did you give away any free rent? Did you do this? Did you do that? When you sell a place, well, what happened? How long was it under contract for? They get all kinds of crazy data, okay? So what I'm going to share with you guys real quick is we are going to figure out what the average transaction in your market is worth, okay? So along those lines, what I would like you guys to do is, Michael says, more supposed than Reonomy. Dude, who's Reonomy, right? In terms of like the difference between the two, put it this way, CoStar has been putting this data together, okay, since Ronald Reagan was in office, okay? Reonomy came on in the last 5 to 10 years. Like, forget it. It's not even fair. Yeah. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is pick out your state on this chart here, all right? And then what I want you to do is go through and calculate what one deal is at 3% in your state. So for instance, let's say I'm from Alabama, okay? $1 million times 0.03 equals $30,000, and go ahead and type that in the chat. Now, mind you, this chart, just so you know, guys, this came from CoStar, right? So this is like the best, most accurate data that we have, okay? So what we want you guys to understand is, all right, go in there, find out what one deal is in your state. So let's say you're in Vermont, all right? Another $1 million times 0.03. There we go. Chart is kind of small. Let me go see if I can zoom in for you. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. How's that? That a little bit better? Got to get new glasses, Michael. That's what I got mine for. All right, cool. So let's get everybody to put their names. So Julia, Kimberly, Mike, Beatrice. Okay, Michael, what do you guys got? What is your average size transaction? Because once you know your average size transaction, then we can take it to the next step. Okay, cool. Kimberly says 1.5 million. Good. Now, Kimberly, do me a favor and multiply that times 0.03. And then what do you get? There you go. Julia says 1.5. Okay, that's an average. That's the average size sale. Now let's talk about the average size transaction commission to your pocket. Dollars and cents. There we go. Okay, cool. We got 39,000. We got 39,000. We got 48,000. Love it. Good, 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 good. Awesome, guys. Cool. Okay, so now that we've established that, now we get to plug it into our next piece. Okay, 45,000. Good, 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 good. All right. So this is our real estate, our calculator. Okay, we call this our input and revenue calculator. It's very, very simple, guys. This is our funnel, okay? When you are a listing agent, okay, or working with buyers, but listings, this works a whole lot better for. Remember, your funnel goes like this. At the top of the funnel, you have dials, and then you have contacts, and then you have meetings, and then you have listings, and then you have listings sold. Very, very simple. So for, you do X amount of dials, you're going to get X amount of contacts. X amount of contacts is going to meet X amount of meetings. X amount of meetings is X amount of listings, and X amount of listings leads to X amount of listings sold. Okay. So that's how the funnel works. Think of it like a big V. Now, what we do is we work down here from our target revenue. This is how much money we want to make in the next year. So the first person to type their target revenue for the next 12 months, I'm going to do your numbers for you. So you know exactly what you need to be doing every day. So whoever that is, the first person to type it in. Boom. Okay. 1.6 million. Love it. Okay. 1.6. Okay. Boom. Now, so, and now, Michael, in your state, what is an average commission at 3%? Go ahead and type that in the chat for me. 39,000. Okay, perfect. All right, good. So we have our average revenue, okay? And then we take, where average size sale is 39,000. Okay, we type it in there. Boom. Okay. So, oopsie, I'm sorry. So, 39,000, that's 1.3 million. Whoopsie. I put that in. Perfect. Boom. Okay. Which shows your average size commission is this, which means you need, at that number, you need 41 sides. Okay. Do you guys know what I mean by sides? Okay. In every transaction, there's two sides. There's a sell side and there's a buy side. Okay. So what I want you guys to understand is you can have 5 transactions with 10 sides. You can have 5 transactions and 6 sides. You can have 5 transactions and 9 sides. You can have 5 transactions and 5 sides. You can never have less than 5 sides. But the point is, if you're double ending deals, you'll be able to have more than one side. Okay. So in order for Michael, at an average size sale price of 1.3 million, he's going to need to do 41 sides in the next 12 months. Okay. Which means every month, he needs to get 3.42 sides. Okay. So Michael's going to be a busy boy. Here's how we figure it out. Okay. Whatever this says, sides needed monthly. Okay. You go to the monthly column, you see this number is 0.96. We need to increase this number so that it equals 3.42. Okay. So let's do that. All right. So let's go to 1,000 dials monthly. Guess what, folks? That equals 1.49. Let's go to 2,000 dials monthly. Guess what? 2.97. Let's go to 2,500 monthly. Ooh, we went over it. Okay, so it looks like 2,400. Let's try 2,400. No, it's a little bit less, 2,300. Hey, there we go. Boom, exactly. Okay, so now there's a few things I want you guys to understand. Okay, these are some ballpark numbers. All right, but I want to make some important points here. So for Michael to average 3 listings sold per month, okay, he needs to do 2,300 dials a month. Not the end of the world, which is 541 weekly, which is 108 daily. This doesn't mean you take Thursday off. This doesn't mean you take Monday off. If you take Monday off or Thursday off or whatever, okay, guess what? You got to do double the next day, or you have to do an extra 20 every single day. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, this is average daily. Okay, most of us will, at some point or another, on a monthly basis, miss 1 or 2 days of prospecting. Maybe you'll miss 1 or 2 a week, ultimately. But the point I want you guys to understand is, be very, very careful. If you miss 1 day, You have to make up for it. Otherwise, you are lowering the amount of, you're lowering your average earnings. Okay? Make sense? All right. So what I want you guys to understand also is this is based on, okay, these 3.42 listings per month is based on these numbers every single day. And it's also based on these conversions. Now look at this. This is something that's pretty cool, okay? So the most important part of our process is the data. Can anybody tell me? Type it in the chat. Why do you think data is so important? When I say data, I mean phone numbers, okay? Why do you think it's so important? Take a guess, guys. Type it in the chat. Why do you think, Rocco? What do you think, Jarita? Donovan? Kimberly? What do you think? Yep, it gives you direction. The other thing that's most important to understand, guys, data drives everything. You can call the wrong phone number 1,000 times and still never get the right person on the phone. So the better quality data you have, the better off you are, okay? So let's just say Mike was able to find a really good data source, okay? And he was able to figure out who to reach out to. And instead of getting 10%, he got 12% pickup rate. So instead of 1 out of 10 people that he dials picks up the phone, 1 out of every 8 people is going to pick up the phone. So that's going to make his dialing percentage 12%. Okay. Now look at this, guys. When he increases from 10%, so 10 out of 100 to 12 out of 100, look what happens, guys. He no longer, you see, remember this number used to be 3.42. Okay, guess what? He no longer has to do 2,300 dials. He gets better data. Watch this, guys. Maybe he needs to do 2,100 dials. Nope, still overshot it. Maybe he needs to do 2,000 dials. Okay, oops, still overshot it. Look at this. Look at that, guys. He needs to do 500 dials less a month. Okay, oops, maybe 450, something like that. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Instead of doing 108 dials a day, he's doing 90 a day. And all because he gets people to pick up the phone 1 out of every 8 times instead of 1 out of every 12 times. Does that make sense, guys? Type an exclamation point in the chat. That's a little bit of a light bulb. The better your data gets, the less work you have to do. Okay. Now, C to M, that's calls to meetings. Okay. Now let's just say instead of 22%, he got better at his calling. Okay, guys, type in the chat. What do you think Michael could work on so that more people would give him meetings? What do you think is going to work when he's on the phone? What do you think is going to give him a better chance? What do you think? If you said better scripts, you better believe it. Exactly. Mike says presentation. Exactly. And when you're on the phone, it's not so much as a presentation as it's you're delivering a script. You're having a scripted conversation. Okay. Excuse me. So let's just say he got a little bit better at that, at his scripts, at his delivery, at his ability to speak to people, understand their problem, and get a meeting. Okay. And instead of 22.5%, he bumped it up 10% to 25%, right? So like another 2.5. Okay. So let's look at that. Let's type that in the chat. Boom, look at this. Oh, wait a minute. Look at this, guys. This number went up again, didn't it? So now we got to bring this number down. We got to lower the amount of dials. So guess what? Because he got better on the phone, just 10% better at his scripts. Look at what happens, guys. Okay. So instead of 1,920, let's see. Maybe it's 1,850. No, not even. Okay. Maybe it's 1,700. Look at this. No. So we're maybe 1,720. There we go. Pretty close. Okay. So instead of 108 dials a day, okay, he can do 81 dials a day. Guys, you can do that with a dialer in about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Just FYI. Okay. Now, wait a minute. Let's say instead of, anyone guess what M to L means? Okay. Meetings to listings. This is how good you get at your presentation. Let's say Michael got a mentor, and that mentor taught him the best way to do listing presentations. And instead of 1 out of every 5 people giving him a listing, maybe he just got a little bit better. Maybe it's 1 out of every 4 people gives him a listing. Okay, that's 25% of the time. Look at what happened. He gets better at his process and he doesn't have to work as hard. Imagine that. Okay. So look at this, guys. This is 4.25. We got to get that down to 3.42. Look at that. Oh, man, that's a big one. Okay. So let's go to 1400. Look at this, guys. He doesn't have to work so hard when he gets better at what he's doing. Whoops. So let's go to 1370. There we go. Let's go to 1380. Pretty close. Oh, there we go. Okay. So remember what we started with, guys? We started with 108 dials a day when he had 10% of the people picking up the phone, when he had 22% of the people giving him a meeting, and when he had 20% of the people giving him a listing. Now, guess what, guys? He has to do 65 dials a day, okay, at an average sale price of 1.3 million to make $1.6 million a year. But he has to do 65 dials a day, every single day, every single month, and he can only take 2 weeks off a year. Would you guys do that for 1.6 million? I think you would. Okay. Now let's do something. Now that's a high earning situation. Most people are trying to get to the $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 mark per year. Okay. So let's, the next person to put your earnings in, let's go ahead and check that out. Okay. So whoever puts their next 12-month goal into the chat, let's take a look at that. All right. Because a lot of you might say, hey, listen, I'd love to make $1.6 million someday, but let's talk about what it'll take to make $200,000 or something along those lines. So let's somebody put your 2024 goal or your next 12-month goal into the chat, and we'll get you set up. All right. So we're going to return this to 10%. We're going to do 20%. We're going to do 20%. Whoops. 20.20. And then we're going to keep that where it is. Okay. Cool. There we go. Mike says 350,000. Love it. Good. That's a good intermediate goal. Okay, guys. And it can absolutely be done in a year or two. Okay. So let's talk about 350,000. Okay. And so Mike, do me a favor. And what was your average size sale in your market? Okay. So we're going to put our target revenue at 350,000. Okay. And now I just need your average size sale in your market. 1.6. Okay, cool. So we're going to go 1.6. Boom, love it. Okay, so it's a $48,000 transaction. Sides needed monthly. Sides needed is 7.3 per year. So that means 0.61 per month. Okay, so look at this, guys. He doesn't have to do 65 dials a day. Look at this. This number is a lot less than this number, so we can lower this number down. Look at this. Let's drop it in half, right? 700. Boom. Okay. All right. Let's go drop it down. Let's go to 600. Let's see what that looks like. Still, we're trying to get that down to 0.61. 500. Look at this. Look at this. 150. Okay. 475. Let's look at that. Okay. That's pretty close. All right, guys. So what does that look like, guys? If Mike, okay, Mike Pugh, not Mike Linton, right, is doing 22 dials a day, every single day of every single week, okay, and getting 10% of the people to pick up, and 1 out of 5 people that he gets on the phone turns into an appointment, and then 1 out of every 5 turns into a listing, and then 1 out of every 3 of those listings sells, he will make, okay, $350,000 in the next 12 months, okay? This is how it works, guys, right? Remember, folks, people will tell you stories. The numbers will never, ever lie to you, okay? 1 and 1 will always equal 2, okay? And despite what those crazy people that are on Joe Rogan are talking about, 1 + 1 = 3 or something, right? So the point I want you guys to understand is do the math, okay? But the problem for most people is not that the math doesn't work, is they don't put in the numbers. They don't do 22 dials a day, 5 days a week for 50 weeks of the year, okay? You have to do every single one of those dials. It's just the way it is. The best I ever did, guys, Monday through Friday, I had an 800-day streak of prospecting. Those are the most profitable 2.5 years of my entire brokerage business, period, end of story. Why? Because consistency. It was a plan. I worked the plan every single day. Did I do 50 dials every single day? Absolutely not. I did my best. But some days I would only get in a handful. If I was feeling ill, but every day I showed up to the office, I got my prospecting in. Okay. And over a year, I would average like 46 a day, over like a 365-day process. That's pretty good. That's pretty consistent. Okay. What I want you guys to understand is you can only hit these numbers if you're doing it every single day of every single week, of every single month, of the entire year. Okay. So 22, it sounds really, really easy, but guess what? You take a couple days off work because you don't feel like working or whatever. Guess what? You got to make it 44 the next day and 44 the next day, 44 the next day. All right. So I want you guys to understand that. So this is very, very achievable, but watch this, guys. All right. Let's say he gets his dials to contacts up to, I don't know, 12%. What do you think that looks like? Then he doesn't have to work so hard. Then it looks more like 400. You with me, guys? And he gets goes from 20% to 22.5, let's say. Guess what then, folks? He can work even less, all right? I'm not trying to get him to do less work. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like him for the same amount of work, make more money. You with me, guys? Okay. And that's what we can do. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Let's, instead of doing less and less and less, how about we keep doing what we're doing, we get better, and how much more money we can make. Does that make sense, folks? If you have any questions, feel free to write them down. Thanks for being here. Hope you learned something. Enjoy. Take care. Have a great day.